shit!
We're gonna need a bigger truck.
Hello everyone, this is Chris Hitois again, coming at y'all with another movie review, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Fate of the Furious, the 8th installment in the Fast and the Furious franchise. This is going to be a spoiler-free review like all of my other reviews, save for the very end. There's going to be a cutoff point where after I give my main review, there's going to be a little bit of spoiler section of something I wanted to address about the movie. But overall, it's a spoiler-free review, so don't be worried if you haven't seen the movie. So anyway, yep, The Fate of the Furious. I love how they come up with titles for these names. I wonder, or titles for these movies. I wonder what the next one's going to be called. It's going to be called The Fine of the Furious or whatever the hell. You go from Fast 5, then Fast and Furious 6, and Furious 7, The Fate of the Furious. Who knows how they're going to go with the next one. But anyways, the plot for this one, following the adventures of, after the events of Furious 7, finds Dom and Letty in their relationship, but something comes up with this new villain, Cypher, played by Charlize Theron. She ends up getting Dom to end up working for her for a reason that you'll find out in the movie. And that situation has Dom turning on his team. The whole thing is all about the family trying to get Dom back and stop Cypher and what she's up to. And for me, this movie had a little bit of baggage going in, only because I think me, along with a lot of other people, felt like after Furious 7, that was sort of the perfect ending for the series, and that an installment coming afterwards would just feel a little bit forced. But, I mean, you can't really blame Universal because, I mean, if you had a franchise that grossed over $1 billion with its last installment, would you stop for no reason? No, you probably wouldn't. So that's why this series has kept going, and that's why they're trying to keep on with having a story to continue. And even though there's that excuse, to me, this movie, that was the problem. My main negative with it was that it just did feel a little bit forced, or more specifically, it just felt like it was going through the motions a little bit. I think this series, for me, has just gone too far down the rabbit hole when it comes to the military stuff and going on. I mean, it worked in 5, 6, and 7. I mean, this series has sort of stumbled into success when it's come to going with over-the-top military stuff. We started with Fast 5 and that safe, the sequence at the end with the safe. Then you do it in Part 6 to try and repeat success, and that works. Then you have it again with 7. But the storyline for me with the military in this and Cypher's plan, I don't know. It just... The problem was that it just didn't feel like Fast and Furious anymore. I think this series has just gone so far in that direction to where that's just a problem with me with what's going on. And when it comes to Cypher's whole plot, a lot of what this plot involves, I really just didn't like the direction it took the characters in at points. Not for the whole movie, but at points. And to me, that's just sort of the problem. When you have what seemed like sort of a good ending with Furious 7, you continue it, and it just felt like sometimes these characters didn't really have anything important to do. Some of the choices they make for them to go on are interesting to say the least. I will say that Cypher herself, the reason that she does hold Dom, actually is it was a mystery to me why was Dom working for her. I'm not going to spoil it in this review, but it's safe to say it was a very effective motivation and ended up providing some really dark and effective moments in the movie that really just caught me off guard. I didn't think the audience expected to see some of the scenes that were in this movie when it came to that storyline, so that was effective. But as I mentioned before, my main problem was that this movie just felt like it was going through the motions, just trying to repeat some of the over-the-top stuff that people enjoyed about the previous 3 installments. But you know what? Despite those complaints of mine, I still, by the end, the movie sort of won me over. To me, the big thing with the Fast and Furious movie that you want is you want it to deliver on that action, and it delivers on that action, man. I mean, there's some really good sequences. I'll say that the ending scene, the ending action scene, that whole sequence, that's fantastic. I thought the fist fights were really effective in this movie. I mean, The Rock in this movie, his fist fights, man, it's just like the Incredible Hulk just mowing through people. And that prison scene that you see in the movie where him and Jason Statham are going through fools, those fist fights were just awesome. I love that sequence. But amazingly enough, one of my favorite sequences in the movie was just something of a simple streetcar race that we saw. It's early on in the film, and to me, the way that sequence was done, it's Dom racing some dude. That was the sequence I really liked in the film. And to me, that felt like Fast and Furious, harkening back to when these guys were simple streetcar races. So I really enjoyed that scene. I'll say that the worst scene for me by far was a scene that takes place in New York where Cypher, she's remote hacking all of the cars that are in this New York City area, and that's where I was sort of rolling my eyes, like, you know what, this series at times, I know you should want to go over the top with the action and whatnot, but for me, that sequence was it was just a little too much, and just had me going like, oh, come on, guys, scale it back a little bit. But for the most part, other than that, all the action in the film works really well, and Cypher was a pretty damn good villain, man, played by Charlize Theron. Wasn't really too sure how effective she was going to be in the movie, but as I mentioned with the darkness early on, she brings a really dark and effective moment in this movie, and that's something that no villain in this movie has ever been able to top. So that was pretty amazing. So overall, I would say that I did by the end, even though it was a mixed bag throughout. By the end, the movie it won me over. The fact that I did end up enjoying it. It's not nearly as good, I think, as the previous three installments. Fast Five was the one that turned things around for this series, and was the first one I was like, wow, I legitimately really enjoyed that movie. Part 6 is my favorite of this series so far. That ending sequence with the plane, I think that sequence is collectively, it's one of the best action scenes I've ever seen. I love that sequence. And Furious 7 was really good also, and it was a great, had that added thing with Paul Walker's death, and that was really effective in that movie. This movie doesn't have anything really great going for it. It's got those problems I mentioned, but if you go in just looking for a fun time, I think you'll enjoy the movie for the most part. I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. Enjoyable, just know what you're getting into. It's not a great movie, not as good as previous two installments, but hey, decent enough, and there's enough good stuff in there to where I'd enjoy it. I'd like to see this series sort of scale back when it comes to maybe not even so much to ridiculousness, or maybe that the ridiculousness also, but maybe just the plot line. Get back to something a little bit more simple, and just stop with the military nonsense. I think we've had 3 movies of this sort of over the top stuff, and it's probably not going to end, but I think it would be better if they got back to something a little bit more simple. Like I said, the best sequence in this movie, I thought, was the streetcar racing sequence that we see early on. That was my favorite sequence in the film, and by something more simple, maybe just even focus more on Dom and Letty's relationship, because that was, to me, that was the best. That was one of the best parts of this movie. That relationship between those two. It's really sweet to see. It's really what the core of this franchise is now, and what it sort of has to be due to unfortunate circumstances of Paul Walker's death. And Dom and Letty, they were the heart of the movie, and I really enjoyed those scenes together with Ben and Michelle Rodriguez. They got great chemistry together, so that was another great thing going for the movie. So yeah, overall, those are my thoughts on Fate of the Furious, this spoiler-free section right here. So yeah, that's the end of this spoiler-free section. Now to get into my spoiler section. So,
you gonna turn your back on family?
okay. So to get to what a spoiler thing about the movie is that, to me, what was such a nice touch with this movie was the very ending. I mentioned the end was what sort of won me over, and I mentioned, yeah, it was the big action scene at the end, but the very end of this movie, because when these Fast and Furious movies always end with them together, sort of celebrating, sort of family and things gone right, and that happens in this movie. But the thing that I just really was such a great touch was the storyline with how the story ends with Dom, and he's got his new son from Elena, and he's talking about, hey, introducing everyone to his son, and then he names his son Brian. That was such a fantastic touch, and when he does that, everyone in the group claps at the table, and that got claps from the audience. The fact that they gave the fact that he named his son Brian, and I was clapping too. That was just so fantastic, and just made, I think, everyone in the theater felt so good inside. And there's no. I was wondering if there was going to be any Brian or Mia in this movie, and as it turns out, nope, they're not. Letty even addresses that, no, we promised we wouldn't bring Brian and Mia into this, and I guess those two, well, obviously we know why Brian's not going to be in there, part of the unfortunate thing with Paul Walker's death, but I guess they're sort of leaving Mia out of things as well. I don't know how long they're going to be able to keep on going with that. The fact that you're not going to Dom's not going to call his sister at all when all these crazy stuff is happening, but oh well, when just talking about that ending scene, it really was a really nice touch, him naming his son Brian, and made everyone in the theater feel good inside. So anyway, that's a little spoilery thing I wanted to mention. So overall, those are my thoughts on Fate of the Furious. Hope you all enjoyed this review, and I'll see you all around with another vid. Peace.